If you've heard the hype around house hacking and want to know why it may just be the best investment strategy for you, you're in the right place. We're diving into 7 reasons why you should start your house hacking journey right now, as well as what some of the obstacles on that journey might be. You clicked on this video, so you probably already have an idea of what house hacking is, but in case you don't, it's where you purchase a property that you can live in part of while renting out the rest of the space. That could be a single family home where you rent out the extra bedrooms, or a 4-unit apartment building where you live in 1 unit, rent out the other 3, or anything in between. House hacking is an amazing strategy, and the number 1 reason is because you could possibly live for free. If you're already supporting this channel by subscribing, please don't forget to turn the like button blue, and if you haven't subscribed yet, come join the party. If you're like most people living in America, the biggest expense you have every month is housing. I know, not avocado toast, shocking. But most people in this country are spending 37% of their take-home pay on a place to live. And that number is only increasing. Between 2012 and 2019, the average cost of housing increased 40%, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down. You might know that I've been playing basketball for most of my life, and so thinking about this, I think that there's only 2 things you can do. Play offense or play defense. Offense would be drastically increasing the amount of money you make. Let's say that your rent is $1,500 and you increase your income from $5,000 to $7,000. That $1,500 rent payment is going to hurt a lot less. And while there's a time and place for playing offense, I do think that playing defense can be easier and achieved much quicker. Let's say you continue to make $5,000 a month, but you're able to lower your rent payment to $500 a month, or maybe even $0 a month. That would drastically change your situation. And this is absolutely possible with house hacking. As always, let's look at the numbers. A good rule of thumb that I got from a mortgage lender is that you can expect to afford a house that costs 2 to 2.5 times your annual income. Obviously, that's going to depend on things like the amount of debt you have and your credit score. And I'm not a financial advisor, so talk to a professional. But let's just imagine that someone who makes $55,000 a year could afford a house of up to $125,000. I did a quick Zillow search and found this $115,000 duplex for sale in Houston, Texas. And this property actually has a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom unit, as well as a smaller studio apartment unit. Another quick search showed me that 3-bedroom, 2 baths rent for about $900 in Houston. If you're interested in finding out the rental values in your area, I'll leave a link to Rentometer down below. Your monthly payment, if you put down 3%, would be about $850. So $900 coming in from your tenant, and you technically are getting paid $50 to live in the studio. Now, I must say this because I never want to mislead anyone. It's important to remember that that $850 mortgage payment is not your only cost. When you own the house, if something goes wrong, it's up to you to fix it. That's why in this example, I would recommend you take that $50, add another $300 or so of your own, and put that in a high interest savings account every single month. If anything needs to be repaired or you have a vacancy in between tenants, you have the reserves to pay for it. And let me know if you disagree, but I feel like putting $300 into savings every month while owning this $115,000 asset is a great deal. If you want to know exactly how to run the numbers and analyze these types of properties, I'll make sure to link this playlist after this video and you can check it out. But hopefully you're starting to like the idea of house hacking and you're ready to hear reason number 2. Leverage is the concept of using borrowed money to buy something that will make you money, aka an asset. House hacking is one of the best ways to use leverage to get into real estate. You've probably heard that in order to buy a house, you need to put 20% down. This is absolutely not true. There are many different loan programs out there that let you put down as little as 0%, but the most common one for house hackers is called the FHA loan, which lets you put down 3.5%. This loan is from the Federal Housing Administration and is for people who plan to live in the property that they're buying. Because of that, you can put down just 3.5%. Conventional loans are used to purchase properties that you don't plan to live in and can require upwards of 20% down. So for our example, that means you just need $4,025 for a down payment. We'll also add in another $2,000 for closing costs, but remember that that's something you can negotiate with the seller and get them to pay for you. If you guys want me to make a video about how you could pull that off, comment negotiating tips down below so I know if you're interested in that topic. So using as little as $6,000, we can acquire a $115,000 asset, the definition of leverage. Now, there are 2 big criticisms of leverage and I want to address them now. Number 1 is that if the value of your property goes down, you could owe more than the home is worth. This is true and something to consider. But what I want us to remember is that on this property, we have a set $850 a month payment for the next 30 years. And so while we may not be able to sell our property and make a profit, we can always just hold on to it, living in it ourselves or renting it out, and know that our $850 a month payment is not going to change no matter what happens to the market. The second reason is that making less than 20% towards your down payment means you'll have to pay mortgage insurance, which is also true. Mortgage insurance is usually about 1% of the property's price on a yearly basis. So for this property, it'd be about $1,150 a year or an extra $95 a month. And guess what? I already included that $95 into our $850 a month payment. So don't get too worked up over mortgage insurance. If you include it in your numbers when you analyze your property and it still turns out to be a good deal for you, I say go for it. I personally think it's better to put down $5,000 and pay an extra $95 a month than it is to put down 20% or $23,000 and save yourself $95 a month. Reason number 3 to start house hacking is that you can supercharge your returns after just 1 year. One of the requirements of an owner-occupied loan like this FHA loan is that you intend to live in the house for a year. After that time, you're free to move out and you can really start to supercharge the returns on your investment. When we were renting out that 3-bedroom unit, we made $900 a month and had an $850 payment. Now, let's imagine that after 1 year, you move out and you rent out the studio for $500 a month. Now you're bringing in $1,400, you still make your $850 payment, still set aside $300 for reserves, and you're making $250 a month or $3,000 a year. Let's compare that to if you were to put 20% or $23,000 down. Your monthly payment would be around $650, and upon moving out after a year, you'd still get the same $1,400 in rental income. After putting some away in reserves, you're going to make $450 a month or $5,400 a year. But what does all of that mean for the return on investment? If we divide the money that we make in a year by the initial investment that we made, so our down payment and our closing costs, that tells us our ROI. So for the 3.5% down, that gives us a 50% ROI, whereas the 20% down is only a 22% ROI. I will just note that these are both really great ROIs, which is why I like to invest in real estate over stocks, but I digress. Back to the topic. Another useful thing we can do is flip that math and see that in our first example, we make all of our initial investment back in just 2 years, and then after that, we continue to make profit. Whereas in the second example, it's going to take us 4.6 years to get that initial $23,000 back. So taking advantage of that low down payment can mean that your return on investment is ridiculously high, and you make your initial investment back much, much quicker. Reason number 4 to start house hacking is that you won't have to deal with having a landlord. There are some horrible landlords out there, including individual ones and the multi-million-dollar companies buying up all the real estate and driving up prices. You'll know that if you've ever had a landlord constantly raise your rent, not fix things that need to be fixed, not let you have a pet, and tell you every little thing that you can or cannot do in their property, that it gets tiring real quick. Dealing with landlords can honestly be one of the worst parts of renting, but when you house hack, you won't have to deal with any of that anymore. It's your house, so if you want to get a pet, get a pet. If you want to play loud music, play loud music. It's up to you. And probably even best of all is you won't have to worry about them constantly increasing rent on you. When you own your own house, your monthly payment is locked in at the same price for 30 years. Reason number 5 to start with house hacking is because you'll get practice being an investor. While I would never say that just house hacking one property is going to get you to financial freedom, it can be a really good place to start. You'll get experience analyzing properties, finding and managing tenants, as well as maintaining a house in a relatively low risk way. When you use a property manager to find and manage your tenants, they'll usually charge 100% of the first month's rent and then 10% a month every month after that. But if you can dedicate yourself to some upfront time at first, you can advertise your property yourself on Zillow, collect applications, sift through them, and pick a tenant that will be a good fit for you. This can be a really good way to save yourself some money on a property manager, as well as give yourself some experience if you intend to keep investing in real estate, maybe use some other strategies. You'll also be living on the property when you house hack, so I do think that makes it significantly easier to manage your tenants, keep an eye on your property, and make sure everything's good. Also, the biggest objection I hear to people saying they don't want to invest in rental properties is because they don't want to fix toilets. And I'm like, come on, guys. Do you think your property manager is going to get out of bed at 10 p.m. and go fix whatever it is your tenant needs? No, they're going to call a handyman, send you the bill, and go back to sleep. You can do that. Save some money and just call the handyman yourself. Reason number 6 is that when you house hack, you can get a nicer property. If you've investigated other investing strategies like the ones that I ranked in this video, you know that oftentimes investors are looking for properties that are not in the best shape so they can add value and fix them up and make their money that way. This is required for things like fixing and flipping or burn investing. For example, if you were looking to fix and flip a property, you might find one for $50,000, put 20 in to fix it up, and now you're all in for 70, and it's really nice when you can turn around and sell that home for 100 or maybe even more. But if you don't already have those purchase and rehab funds in the bank, it can be really difficult for a beginner to get that strategy off the ground. Plus, when you're house hacking, you don't really want to live in the most rundown property you can find anyway. You're going to want to be comfortable and maintain the standard of living that you're used to. And with house hacking, you can. Because you're leveraging that 3.5%, you can afford a nicer property than you would if you had to pay all cash to buy and fix one up yourself. And when you're buying a property that would normally cost like $1,000 a month, renting out the extra rooms or units means that cost is spread out in a way that it wouldn't be if you lived there by yourself. And reason number 7 is because of the tax incentives. Now, I know taxes are a snooze fest, but don't leave me yet. The average person in America pays about 14% of their income to taxes. So for a person who makes $55K a year, that's about $7,700. But if you're a homeowner, your tax bill will likely be much less. And while I do not think this is fair to renters, it might just be a reason to push you towards house hacking sooner rather than later. Now, the tax system is complicated, and I'm definitely not an accountant, but there are some things you can do to lower your tax bill, such as take deductions on your mortgage interest. There's also something called the home office deduction, which is available to both renters and homeowners. And if you're using a portion of your home for your office, like a lot of us are doing right now, you may be able to lower your tax bill with that as well. There's a really good channel that gives a ton more tax information called the Cash Compass that I'll link to in the description below. She doesn't know me, but I like her channel, so might as well give her a plug here. If you're interested in starting your house hacking journey, check out this deep dive that I did right here. And if you want to learn to analyze your own investment properties, check out this playlist here. I post videos most Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. And until next time, thanks for watching. If we divide the money we make in